Hey guys, welcome to Unravel Me. I'm Anna, and today I wanted to show you how to do this beautiful, adorable little owl stitch pattern. This can be incorporated into just about anything, so let's get started. Okay, so for the owl stitch pattern, there are a few basic things that you're going to want to know. So if you're a pure beginner, this is not going to be the pattern for you. It could if you know these, but I'm not going to walk you through all the steps. So the stitches that you're going to want to already know are knit stitch. You want to know how to purl. You want to know what the seed stitch pattern is. And you want to have a decent idea of how to read charts and what the symbols are. There is a chart key on the chart, so that can explain it, but you do want to know that when you're reading charts, you want to read every odd numbered row from right to left, as in the way that you would knit, and then every even numbered row from left to right, since you're now knitting on the opposite side of the fabric and you're knitting back. When you're reading a chart and you see a blank space that shows typically a knit stitch on the wrong side of the fabric, you want to purl that stitch. And when you see the purl space on the chart, you're going to purl that on the right side of the fabric and knit it on the wrong side of the fabric. So essentially, when you're looking at a chart, you are seeing what the entire right side of the fabric is going to look like once it's completed. Hopefully that helps a little bit. Otherwise, you still might want to get a little familiar with charts, but that should be everything that you need to knit this owl. So this owl pattern is 14 stitches wide by 22 rows tall. And I wanted to do 3 border stitches on either side, so I did 20 stitches total. And I love the look of the seed stitch, especially with this owl pattern, because I gave it a seed stitch belly. So let's go ahead and get started. If you want to knit up to this point, again, this can be incorporated into any design that you are working on. And if you prefer to just take the chart and take off with it on your own, feel free to go ahead and do so. Otherwise, if you'd like to continue knitting along with me, I'm glad to have you here. So as you can see by looking at the chart, the owl is bordered by purl stitches, and that's important because you want to have the owl stand out. If you just do knit stitches around it, it's not going to stand out as much. And so that's why having a width and height of 3 purl stitches all around the owl is a good idea, which is why I included it with the chart. So as you can see, those first 3 rows are purely just purl. Remember that on the purl side you're going to be knitting those stitches and then maintaining that seed stitch border on the edges. If you enjoy just watching the knitting, I am going to begin putting up ASMR knitting videos where you can just sit back, relax, and enjoy watching it while knitting along with me. So I'll put a link to that in the description here. Otherwise, I will meet you at the end of those 3 rows. As you can see here, I'm on what normally would be the right side. These are all the knit stitches. This is actually the wrong side of my fabric, and I am just finishing up here. Okay, and now I'm ready to begin the first cable row of our owl pattern. So let me go ahead and work the border. And we're going to purl 3 stitches. And now we're going to do our first cable, and it is a right leaning cable. I like to do this without the use of a cable needle. So what I'm going to do is scrunch these stitches up to the edge, slip 4 stitches off the needle, and you want those back 2 to be going to the right. So I'm going to pick up the front 2 stitches with my left needle and the left 2 stitches with my right needle and bring them over to the front of the needle and slip them back on. So I have just crossed the 3rd and 4th stitch over to the front of the 1st and 2nd stitch. And now I'm going to knit all of those stitches. And it can be a bit tight here. And now we're going to do the opposite cable, which is going to be a left-leaning cable. Once again, we're going to slip 4 stitches off the needle, but this time, oops, I slipped 5. This time we're going to grab those 1st and 2nd stitches from the front, since they're going to be going to the left, and with our right needle, grab that 3rd and 4th stitch in the back. Bring it around and slide those 3rd and 4th stitches onto the needle and knit into them. And then do your last 3 purl stitches and the border. So we are now on the wrong side row of our fabric. If we turn it to the right, we can see that the feet of our owl are right here, and you can't see them very well at the moment because it's the very first cross, but these are the stitches that you just crossed. So going back to the wrong side of the fabric, let's do our seed stitch border. And then we're going to knit 3, and that's going to give us those 3 purl bumps on the other side. And now we are going to purl 2, and begin our seed stitch owl belly. So purl 1 more, knit, purl, knit. Now when you're looking at the chart, it looks like it's opposite because the chart is always showing what the right side of the fabric looks like. So when it shows the purl bumps, that means on the wrong side of the fabric, you're going to knit it. And when it shows the knit stitches, you're going to purl those on the wrong side of the fabric. So now we purl 2 and knit 3. And do our seed stitch border. Okay, so we're back on the right side row now. Let's go ahead and just do our seed stitch border. We're going to purl 3 stitches, knit 2, and then our little seed stitch belly. So knit, purl, knit, purl, knit 2, and purl 3. And then our seed stitch border. We're doing our border. And we're going to knit 3, purl 2, and then you're just doing, for those 4 center stitches, you're always going to be doing the opposite of what you're looking at. So here we're going to purl, knit, purl, knit, since the seed stitch is knitting the opposite stitch of what you're looking at. Purl 2, and knit 3. And our border. Perfect. Turning it around, we're now on the right side row again. And it looks like it's starting to come along here. It can be a little difficult to see, but we got our little body forming. So let's go ahead and do our seed stitch border. And of course you can do whatever border you want or just incorporate it into any design that you're knitting. Purl 3, knit 2, and then our seed stitch belly, so we're going to knit, purl, knit, purl, knit 2, and purl 3. And then we do our little border. Perfect. Now if you look carefully at the chart, you'll see that there are 7 rows in between the cable rows. So if you're ever lost, you can just count up and see which row you're on. So let's do our border. Knit 3, purl 2, seed stitch belly, so purl, knit, purl, knit, purl 2, and knit 3. And our border. Turn your work. It's starting to look like the bottom of an owl. It's so beautiful. Here we go with our border. And we're going to purl 3, knit 2, seed stitch belly, knit, purl, knit, purl, knit 2, and purl 3. And then finish with the border. Turn your work. Wow, this is our last row of the bottom part of the body. So go ahead and start with your border. Knit 3, purl 2, seed stitch belly, so purl, knit, purl, knit, purl 2, and knit 3. And then our seed stitch border. Turn your work. So beautiful. All right, this is going to be our next cable row. So let's see if we can get a better look at that. Let's do our border. Okay, so we're going to purl 3, and once again we're going to cable 2 to the right. So to do that, we're cabling these 4 stitches, and we want it to be angled off to the right side, which means that the stitches 3 and 4 are going to come in front and cross over stitches 1 and 2 in the front, and stitches 1 and 2 are crossing behind stitches 3 and 4 to get our right leaning cable. So let's go ahead and drop those 4 stitches off our needle, come from the back and pick up stitches 1 and 2. In the front with our right needle, pick up stitches 3 and 4. Trying not to split the stitches, and cross them over the front and place them on that left needle there. So go ahead and knit into those 4 stitches. And now these next 4 are going to be cabling to the left. So it's going to be the exact opposite of what we just did. We're going to slip those 4 stitches off the needle. And now we want it to be going to the left. So we're going to pick up stitches 1 and 2 with our left needle in the front, and pick up stitches 3 and 4 with our right needle in the back, and twist them around to bring stitches 3 and 4 into the front of your left needle, and knit into them. It can always be a little tight, so try and elongate those stitches just a tiny bit to give you a little extra room when you're knitting across on the other side. Perfect. Now purl 3. And we can do our border. Look how beautiful it's looking. Okay, turn your work. We are just going to purl all the way across those back stitches. So let's start with our border. And then our knit stitches on this side to surround the owl. So knit 3. And purl 8. Seven, 8. Knit 3. And the border. Wonderful. Turn your work. It's looking so pretty. Okay, our next right side row, of course, always beginning with our border. And our purl 3. Here we're going to begin making little purl bumps for where the eyes are going to be placed, and this will show you where you can sew buttons on afterwards if you like, or you can just leave it as they are, whichever you prefer. So we're going to knit 1, purl 2, knit 2, purl 2, and knit 1, and then we're going to purl 3, and do our border. Turning your work. We're going to do the second row that's going to create a space for the eyes of the owl to go. So we're going to knit 3, purl 1, remember this is going opposite, knit 2, purl 2, knit 2, purl 1, and then you're going to knit 3 and do your border. And turn your work. Rows 17 and 18, we're now just going to be 17 knitting all the way across and then 18 purling all the way across, just for the owl stitches. So let's go ahead and do that. We're on row 17. We'll start with our border and our purl 3. Now we're going to knit 8. And purl 3. And then do your border. Turn your work. We're going to do the exact opposite of what we just did. Seed stitch border, knit 3, purl 8, and knit 3. And then we do our border. Yay! So if you can see these little purl rows, might be a little difficult, but you should be able to see it on your own knitting, and that's where you're going to sew the eyes on to your owl. This is our last cable row, and we're actually going to do this one a little bit different. If you look closely at the chart pattern, you'll see that the symbols for the cables are just slightly different than they were before. You'll see there's a little purl bump on the inside of the cables, and that's exactly what we're going to do with it. So let's go ahead and do our border. Purl 3, and we're going to cable 2 to the right. So again, since we want it to go to the right, stitches 3 and 4 are going to come in front of stitches 1 and 2. So let's slip those off the needle, come behind 3 and 4 and grab 1 and 2 with your left needle. Come in front of 1 and 2 and grab 3 and 4 with your right needle. And bring them to the front of the left needle and slide them on there. Now here's where we change it up a little bit. You're going to knit those first 2 stitches like always. And then when we get to the last 2, you're actually going to purl them. Just like that. And now let's take a look at this next cable stitch here. It's going to be a left leaning cable stitch. So we want stitches 1 and 2 to come in front of 3 and 4. So let's go ahead and slide those 4 off the needle. Grab 1 and 2 with our left needle and bring them in the front. Grab 3 and 4 with our right needle in the back and bring them up to slide them onto the front of that left hand needle. And now if you look, you'll see that that left leaning cable has the purl stitches right there on the right side instead of the left side. So we're going to purl those first 2 stitches. And knit the second 2. Just like that. And that's going to give us the little ears for our owl. And purl the next 3. And then do your seed stitch border. Or continuing on with whatever your pattern is that you are doing. Wonderful! So we've pretty much got our owl here. We're just going to finish up these ears and then create a border around the top of it as well. So let's turn our work. and knit 3. We're going to purl 2. That's going to be the top of that left ear. Knit 4. Those were those purl bumps those purl stitches that we had done. Purl 2. That's the top of our right ear. And knit 3. And finish with the border. Turn your work. Let's see what we got. There you go. The owl ears. They're so cute. Okay, let's do our border. And now we are just going to finish up the top 4 rows the same way we did our bottom 4 rows. So we are just going to purl across for the next 4 rows. And I will meet you at the end. And here we have our beautiful owl pattern. So you can see there's a spot right here for the 2 eyes. His cute little ears, his head, and his body. I love the seed stitch on the belly there. So I actually only did 3 extra rows of the reverse stockinette over the top here because my next row is going to be a bind off, and that's going to add 1 row's worth of height, and so it'll look more even doing just the 3 rows instead of 4. But you can do it however you like. And then you could even start a new owl pattern here, whichever you prefer. So there you have it, our beautiful little owl pattern.